Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now,
You are live. All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is such an exciting day. I absolutely love Wednesdays here on the Word on Wealth because this is the day when we learn everything we need to know, should know, things we don't even know that we should know about real estate, because we have Ken Pecus with us on this show. Ken, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Gary. I'm really happy today. Ask me why.
Why are you so happy today, Ken?
We have less than 8 months till Christmas. People can go start shopping for me.
That's
Christmas presents.
fantastic.
I just want to let you know.
You know, I think it's good to get started less than 9 months out. So that's good. So yeah, 8 months away from Christmas. That's perfect. Gosh, dang.
And it's sunny, so
And it's sunny, and we're in San Diego, and we're on the air talking about all kinds of cool things. Now, it's so funny. Yesterday, as you know, I was on the air with Corey Kavanowski, and we were talking about mortgages and stuff like that. It was just so interesting. There just seems to be always some new thing coming out with real estate. That our world, especially in Southern California, is just so real estate centric, and it's just crazy to see these things. Now, you were saying that I guess the Case Shiller numbers came out, so I wanted you to go over that. So Ken's going to be here. We're going to go right to the top of the hour with Ken. If you have a question for him, it's 888-344-1170. Please dial and ask us the question and be part of this great show today, 888-344-1170. Ken is the founder of the Pecus group at eXp Realty, a good friend, professional friend, has helped me and my family. We just love having him on the show. So first of all, let's talk about the Case Shiller, and then I guess I
got all sorts of things.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That, and then it's like, really, was there like a fight at the San Diego City Council? Anyway. All right, let's talk about Case Shiller.
Well, let me back up a quick question.
Okay.
Yesterday during your mortgage discussion, and I might have missed it, did you by any chance talk about loan level price adjustments that were made? That's been in the news quite a bit the last 2 weeks, especially with political political ads. I mean, I shouldn't say political ads, political memes that have been going back and forth. And it's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac announced. Did that come?
Yeah, if you have a really nice high credit score, you get penalized for that, or you can buy down the rate if you want. It's like Corey and I talked about that, and it was, in fact, last night I was on the Andrea Kay show. I'm usually on for like 15 or 20 minutes. We went like 35 minutes on that exact topic, because it's like, are you serious? Stick it where it counts with a tax, and don't call it that. Yeah, insane.
Right. It is. The only thing I would say from a practitioner standpoint, from a real estate agent standpoint, and and what I've heard from other people who have heard this and have kind of interpreted it however they wanted. It's just really important for the listeners out there to understand you're not going to benefit by messing up your credit.
Exactly.
So you want to keep your credit good.
Mm-hmm.
You can't state that enough. And all they're doing is they're closing the gap a little bit, but the people that had lower credit used to have to pay a much higher fee, and the people that had great credit had to pay a much lower fee. And they're making the higher credit people having to pay slightly more, and they're making the lower credit people paying a lot less. So they're effectively, condensing the gap between the great credit and the not so great credit. But if you have great credit, just know it absolutely benefits you to keep that credit great, and you will get a better loan terms. So that's important. And that's something that it's important for people to not misconstrue the simplification that's going out there and circulating.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's, I agree with you 100% on that. We get the news, and it's very exciting and very alarming, and it really starts to make, anything like that hits the news cycle and keeps repeating over and over, rinse and repeat. Sometimes we misinterpret it, but that was one thing that did come up. It's like, well, then forget it. I'm just going to go out and mess up my credit. But it is a penalty, unfortunately, for people who have great credit but it's not something that you should go and do anything about because you still get a better loan if you have great credit.
Yeah, you'll get a much better loan.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that
so let's
up.
go to Case Shiller.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
how is she doing?
Just fine. I'm assuming it's a she there. It's as I've said in the past, Case Shiller is the one report I always pay attention to, because to remind your listeners, the Case Shiller index is reflecting properties that are reselling, as opposed to an overall look at properties where they decide what the median price is and what's selling above and what's selling below. Case Shiller is actually an in-depth study of property that has actually sold 1 year, and that same property has sold the next year, and they're making those kind of evaluations. So that's why I always pay attention to Case Shiller.
Terrific.
So,
okay.
All right. So a couple things. Just so you know, the median price also came out yesterday, and San Diego's median price between March 2022 and March 2023 is up 5.3%. So our median price is back into the 800,000s, just so you know. So if you just saw that headline, you'd think, all right, we're back. But no, you pay attention to Case Shiller. And Case Shiller just came out and said that San Diego, out of the top 20 metropolitan districts in the country that they look at, we are actually year over year, February 2022 to February 2023, we are down 4.1%. So that's an actual depreciation number, meaning a property that was purchased in February of 2022 and is now sold in February of 2023 potentially has the potential, that was good, of being sold for 4% less. And so that's a life change, and that's something people should just be aware of.
Yeah.
At the same time, Case Shiller just said, now remember, Case Shiller is also a lagging indicator, right? So that's taking into account everything that happened in about a minute, September, October, November of last year. The good thing is Case Shiller also just came out and said that for January to February, the most recent, San Diego is up 1.5%, and we lead all 20 metropolitan areas in the country in appreciation starting this year. So you'll see a totally different Case Shiller as we get down later on in the year.
I like being right. I love being right. San Diego real estate is always good.
Like that.
It's all I know. I'd like that. San Diego real estate is always good. I've been here 64 years. It's always going up. I look back and houses are more expensive now. I love it. We got Ken Pecus here from the Pecus Group, 619-977-8419, 619-977-8419. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk a little bit about the San Diego City Council got into it regarding some real estate issues that we really need to know. We'll be right back here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay region.
They are working on that music. I've heard them playing around with it. So eventually it'll switch up.
Okay. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single family.
They got me playing a live ukulele, so it's authentic.
That's good. Yeah,
that's right.
Tom thought it would be on
ready to
today,
help
and I said,
you with
it
problems
hasn't been on yet.
causing
So
mistakes.
that's funny.
My guess is either Friday or Monday.
That's okay. I'll try not to fall asleep in the
Or call
meantime.
619.
What?
977. The most exciting part is the DRE number.
Realty.
Oh, well.
Here, 1, 2, 3.
Bush of GQ Law. Call or click to request.
But you know me, I'm all about Marty Schneider for president. I mean, that's a Knish in every household.
500 Trust. GQLaw.com.
You're live.
All right. Back to, clicking buttons here. Welcome to The Word on Wealth. So good to have you along. It is Wednesday. This is our very special day when we get to learn all things real estate from our expert, our friend and expert, Ken Pecus, founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. To get a hold of Ken for anything real estate. So if you want to be a real estate investor, if you want to sell real estate, if you want to buy real estate, if you want to know what you qualify for, you got to call Ken and his team. His number is 619-977-8419, 619-977-8419. Ken's going to tell us a little bit about, there's a San Diego City Council session that they just had about, there's some real estate issues that got pretty exciting. Ken's going to talk about that. And if you have questions on anything real estate, call the show. We've got lines open right now. It's 888-344-1170. Ken, any follow-up in the Case Shiller? And then let's talk about the San Diego City Council.
Yeah, I think Case Shiller is all good.
Okay.
As expected, the Eastern Seaboard, Miami, Tampa, Florida cities, from their big blow up last year, from people coming down from the Northeast, they're showing the highest appreciation. But if you're watching carefully, you're now seeing that's kind of softening out. And so all these are lagging indicators. So you always want to be ahead of the game and see what's going on the ground, no matter what city you're looking at that moment. Don't look at the past. That just reinforces don't look at the reports. That just reinforces what happens at the past. Pay attention to what's going on right now. So that's it on Case Shiller.
Yeah, and that's just what's important, and the message we're trying to get out in this show is just reality. It isn't a news show. It's not a make things sound really super woo, this is what's going on. It's like we want reality, and that's what we're doing. So we appreciate that. So San Diego City Council, tell us the role that they have regarding these rent protections, and it's you hear about the city council, and to me, council's like, wait, that's 8-9 people. How are they like running our world here? What's going on?
Oh yeah, and they're running our world. So the first thing I want to make sure everybody understands, we're talking about the city of San Diego. So if you're in Carlsbad, Escondido, Oceanside, Chula Vista, National City, Coronado, you're not affected by this directly yet. And the reason I say yet is because the city of San Diego is the big gorilla in the room right now. So what happens there does influence other cities and city councils, and they watch and see if this is working or isn't working. That's different because it's really important for people like during COVID and all the rent protections and everything we heard, we were hearing almost daily from the county of San Diego, and that's where the supervisors are in. And when the supervisors in the county of San Diego are passing rent protection or no eviction, they were protecting a lot of people during COVID. That, because it's the county, they have broad-based powers over all of the cities. So if the county passed a no eviction, then that does affect Oceanside, Escondido, Coronado, Carlsbad, wherever, and you have to follow that. So what we're talking about here is strictly within the city of San Diego limits. So that's important to know. Okay. Number one. So you're right, there's 9 council members, and I wasn't at the actual hearing yesterday at the city council chambers, but I believe it went on for about 6 hours. So that's a long time for one topic. Yeah, it's a lot. There were more than 200 people, I believe, speaking on behalf of small apartment owners, property management companies. They had a limited number of people speaking on behalf of the rent protection. They had some union people there, and union chiefs and some other people saying, well, the reason they're not there is the majority of those people that are being affected are actually at work, and there's some credibility to what they're saying because they don't have the ability to necessarily leave, the lower paying jobs at that moment and just leave. But it's not here nor there. The whole process here is, it's not rocket science for people to go into the city of San Diego, into downtown, into the metro, and see that there is a homeless problem. Everybody's trying to solve what's going on. So is the homeless problem a drug-related problem, a mental health problem, and or is it a problem having to do with the economy and people coming out with too high cost of living? All arguable, all debatable, not going to take a side on any part of that right here. The context to follow is that omnipresent problem is what's driving the city council and different people to put things in place. So that's where this kind of originates from. And what a lot of the people yesterday that were trying to, speak in front of the city council is they were trying to say, you're misguided in who you're targeting for the people you're trying to help. It's same thing like rent control. I am not a fan of rent control in any city. I haven't really seen where rent control truly helped the people that it was intended to help. And so it's you're trying to help people, but at the same point, you have unintended consequences. And we're telling you, here's the consequences that are going to happen, and you're not paying attention. So those are kind of the arguments that are going back and forth yesterday. But the long and the short of it is the city council voted 8-1. And by the way, the one dissenting city council person was Jennifer Campbell from her district. And she said that she just heard from a lot of people in her district that they don't want her to vote in favor of this. So I think we should, give credit to who is voting against and who's voting for.
Yes.
And it's a preliminary vote. There's a second vote that happens on May 16th because there were amendments added, different things that are added before something like this goes fully in place. So the city of San Diego is on the verge of passing a dramatic change in the rules for eviction and vacating of property, and it far surpasses what the overall state of California has passed. Fortunately, it's not as crazy as the city of Los Angeles has done. So I guess we're sort of like, I don't want to say we're the Goldilocks, but we're kind of like the mama bear, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
of the thing here. So
the
that's the
base,
background.
so the protect, yeah, okay. Because so in basically when we're talking, because when you say rent protection, I immediately go to rent control and how LA's got the rent control and how much you can raise and all that stuff. So rent protections, rent control, same thing, different issue. What's
bad choice of words on my part? Not rent protection, it's housing protection under the lease. So this is
okay.
This is all about eviction and vacating property. It's this particular thing is not about rent control. I was confusing because in LA, before you can evict, they've actually set, whether it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, they've actually set limits on how far behind somebody needs to be before you can begin eviction proceedings. But if somebody is paying just slightly under their rent every month, you could go on for a while before you hit that thing. It's just crazy. That's being fought in court.
Interesting. So I mean, technically then, yeah, renters are not dumb and they go, oh, well, I won't get kicked out if I reduce my rent by, $100 a month for the next 3 years, because then I won't get 1 month. Oh, that's just crazy.
Bingo. And it is being challenged in court, thank goodness. But like I said, luckily we have some sensibility in San Diego. I just don't know about LA. So that's
okay.
a whole different
thing.
Ahead.
I'm glad we're here. All right.
Yeah, exactly. So
thank you.
All right. So City of San Diego, second vote is May 16th. And one thing to know that in the last 2 years in the city of San Diego, rents have gone up 19.8%. That's a hard fact. So you can see if you take, like inflation and everything, that does affect people's ability. People's salaries have gone up, but I'm fairly confident the people that this is trying to help, their salaries haven't gone up by 20%. So I can see how this is affecting people.
Sure.
So here's effectively what the new rules are. If you're going to do what they call a no-fault eviction, a no-fault eviction means that the tenant in the property has been paying their rent. They've been paying their rent. They haven't done anything wrong. They haven't broken their lease, whatever. But you, as the owner, you just want the property back. You don't want to rent it anymore. You want to put a family member in it. You want to remodel it. You want to sell it. You want to do whatever you want to do. Up until now, the state of California has mandated that you give a month of relocation fees. That came in a couple of years ago. Now the city of San Diego is saying, if you're going to do a no-fault eviction of this, you're going to now have to give them 2 months of rent as relocation. And if they're a senior or disabled, you're going to have to give them 3 months of rent as a relocation fee. That's in addition to the extended notice that has to be provided to the people. Okay. So effectively, it doesn't mean they're not taking away no-fault evictions. We're calling it no-fault evictions. I call it no-fault vacatings.
Yeah.
But they're increasing what you have to give as an owner for relocation fees. And this does come up, quite a bit. In addition, usually what this has been in place with, it's been in place with after the lease has kind of finished, or if it's a month to month, after a year, you can only have to give them those relocation fees. With this new regulation, it starts from day one of it. So let's say you put somebody on a month to month lease and they've been going for
2 minutes.
With the past regulations, you only had to do the relocation if they had been there more than a year. With the current ones, if they get secondarily voted on May 16th, once somebody moves into your place, even if they're on a month to month and you want to involuntarily vacate them after, let's say, 4 months, this goes into effect. You will have to give them 2 months of relocation fees.
Wow.
Which that's significant. That can be had.
Yeah.
Here's the key, though, on all of this stuff. They're only focused on lower economics or lower income. I shouldn't say lower income, but lower economic product segment. I deal with people, and I think we're some of the worst people that manipulate the system are in the upper end. So you could have some very high-end condos. You could have people in super expensive penthouses in downtown, in super expensive places, in La Jolla, whatever. They're renting for $20,000 a month, and they're on a month-to-month whatever. They're not excluded, and they can manipulate this however they want to.
Interesting. Well, this is actually it's very interesting because I mean it has to do with real estate. It has to do with values and all that. So it's very interesting that you kind of the demographics where it's involved, and there's so much of this that it's good to know, because especially you see the news, you get all alarmed, you go, oh my gosh, the world's the ceiling's falling down, the world's collapsing, and oh my gosh. But then it's good to always have kind of the reality and how this affects. So we are listening to and talking with Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. His number is 619-977-8419, our real estate expert here on the Word on Wealth. We are talking about the new renter protections that are potentially going to go into effect before the end of May. When we come back, we want to talk about opportunities for investments and how that will affect buyers, and some opportunities Ken's going to explain coming up next here on the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
Live.
Right. You are listening to the Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush. I'm here with Ken Pecus. He's our real estate expert here on the Word on Wealth. It's here on Wednesdays, and we have him right to the top of the hour. So we have lines open too. Ken has agreed to take calls if you have questions about your real estate, your real property, whether you're thinking about buying, selling, or you own, and you want to talk about some of these renter rule protection things that we're talking about now. We have lines open, and the number is 888-344-1170. Ken, We are talking specifically about some of these new renter protection rules that are potentially coming in down the pike in the middle of May. So that's coming up in less than a month. And there's always, there's always a lot of, both sides to that thing. Like, is this really going to help? What are they targeting? If they're trying to take care of the homeless problem, it sure seems like a weird way to do it. Is that really going to help? And, time will tell whether any of this helps or whether it's a matter, is it really good for our people? Bottom line is it's coming, and we have experts like you, Ken, to help us understand, how do we make, investment opportunities out of this, and, what's the good side of this, and how do we kind of navigate it and negotiate it, because it's on its way.
Yeah. Well, there's two quick plugs I want to put in here about this for landlord and property management activists that I think are really bad about this. And if you own rental property in the city of San Diego, maybe you want to contact your city council person. The first one is they're putting in a clause that if somebody was on a lease, like you have a fixed term lease, you're going to lease it for 6 months, 1 year, year and a half. If somebody's going to sign a lease, that lease would, once somebody finishes, that lease would also be then subject to somebody getting relocation, even though you let the person go to the term of the lease. That if somebody has a 1 year lease, you sign a lease and whatever, and they finish their 1 year, they should move because it was a 1 year lease.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to force them to have to move. With this, you'd have to give it. It applies to that lease if they said they wanted to continue to stay there and didn't move. So I think that added clause to this is ridiculous, and I think you should call your city council people. And then the last one, the second part that the council president, Elo Rivera, put in as an addendum would require all the evictions, if you do an eviction of this kind, that you have to actually also report it to the Housing Commission because they want to collect data. Well, if you're already going to have to do it legally, the courts will, control that. There's all the regulations in place. You're adding another layer of bureaucracy just for their benefit at the council to understand. It's going to cost the city another $200,000 a year in order to get people to manage this whole new bureaucracy. And it's ridiculous that as a city, we're going to be paying this money for information we don't really need for temporary council people that are going to be out of there no more than 8 years away. So I just think that is the most ridiculous thing. And so if you agree with me, call your city council people. Okay.
So we're calling city council people and we're telling them that, first of all, we don't like any of the rent protections for the adverse effect they're going to have basically on even our housing market. But then specifically these add-ins where even on a contractual lease where they're adding in that these rules are going to apply not just to month by month, or it's going to be apply to people that are on a long-term lease, which I'm sorry, that's a contract. They're statutorily trying to mess with a contract that I've made and signed and agreed to, and it's based on an agreement and a meeting in the minds. That's a breach of my rights. I don't like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, I'm there. So, All right, and just one quick thing, just know that there are exceptions to this new, and those exceptions include Section 8 housing, vacation rentals, hotels, residential care facilities. None of that is being affected by this. So if you have one of those things, just so you know, those are not affected by this on there.
Makes sense. They've got their own little protections there. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah. All right. So how do you make money on this? Here's the way I look at it. And you led this off. You led this segment off just fine. It's coming. It's going to, with an 8-1 vote yesterday. We know some level of this is going to come in play. And so I think as an owner, as a property owner, or as a potential investor, you should understand the laws, understand the regulations, because if you understand whatever the laws and whatever the regulations are, you can be financially successful. Mm-hmm. And the first thing to understand is that there's a lot of people that don't understand it. And because a lot of people that don't understand it, when this goes in, I'm only guessing because it has to happen still, but I'm looking in the crystal ball. I think there's going to be some exodus out of rental property, meaning I believe some people, some smaller property, whether it's single family houses where there's 2 to 4 2 to 4 units, maybe small apartment buildings, we might end up having people that don't really want to own property this way and might, in my opinion, prematurely exit that market. And when somebody prematurely exits a market because they get philosophically against something, they potentially are hurting themselves, but that is also an opportunity for somebody else to be on the lookout for that.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense, because some people are getting out just because they're just tired of the rules, and here's just another one. And you're reading the newspaper, and maybe your crystal ball or the tea leaves in your cup just aren't quite there for you. And so you get out. So that's an investment opportunity. I like that.
Yeah, I think it is. And where I'm going to be pursuing that investment opportunity is I'm going to be contacting my favorite property managers, the ones that handle a lot of, I have several that I really like, but one really in particular, but multiple property managers. And I'm going to effectively put them kind of on notice, saying, hey, what's the tenor of people that you're working with, and try to see if there's going to be some off-market deals where people are trying to exit that I might be able to bring some other people in. So one of the things is just being aware that there could be a great opportunity to buy property, because right now, if you went to go buy, whether it's 2 to 4 units, like we've talked before, apartment buildings, inventory, like everything is very, very low. And so your choices are not there. So I'm actually kind of hoping this maybe opens up a little bit of inventory so that, real estate can transact a little bit. And I know that's kind of a backward way to look at it, but it'll give people an opportunity.
No, I think anything that moves the economy, anything that makes it swirl is a good thing. I really do. And in that type of, if people are sitting on properties, a lot of people, I mean, this is your industry, not mine, but what I'm seeing, because I see because of the estate planning side of it, and you have families that are, parents have passed away, and now kids are trying to figure out, should we keep, stay in this home or not? And they're trying to pencil that out. Should we keep the family home? Should we do this and that and the other? And yeah, let's keep the family home. Let's just hang on to it. And I say, you got to pencil it out. You're going to have a property tax increase. You're going to have, the tax consequences. We go through that stuff. And now this might be one other thing where this will help people. I believe this will help people make the decision and just say, you know what? This is just one more thing. We got Prop 19 we're dealing with. We got this other thing we're dealing with. And now this, forget it. Let's just sell this thing. Let's get out. We're not going to have any capital gains issues. Let's get out. So I think it's a good thing. Anything that makes anything that causes people to buy and sell churns the economy. And that is a good thing.
I think that is going to happen. So for people that are going to be, that already have investment portfolios or want to start one, this is a great way to understand how to do it. And you just said it in when you were just talking, it's a numbers game. You have to understand the numbers. So now you understand about the potential relocation. You understand about what you might have to do if you have to remodel a property. You put those numbers into your pro forma when you're trying to establish what is going to work. So if I own property right now, let's just say I'm somebody that has, like I have my units, that I have. One piece of advice that I would give to everybody that owns property is, you're not helping yourself and you're not necessarily helping your tenant by not putting in the minimum annual rent raises, because there's a lot of people said, well, I want to be really good to my tenants. I don't want to raise their rents. I don't want to do whatever. But what you're effectively doing then is you're giving them a false sense of what the actual market is right now. And so if you do have to go through one of these relocation, one of these no fault evictions, you should be maximizing how much money is coming out of those units along the way, and not wait 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Exactly. And that's the effect of all of this. I mean, people figure it out. They do the numbers, they do the math, and all these things. Eventually, you just got to be smart and on top of it. That's why we're glad we have Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. Call us up, 888-344-1170. We'll be back in a second on The Word on Wealth.
You've got questions.
Woo, look at you. You're a pro.
Is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.
You're live.
All right, welcome to Word on Wealth. We're so happy to have you along today on this brief radio show. We are here Monday through Friday here on the Word on Wealth, same time, same station. We're live on YouTube. We have a Facebook channel that's running any of these podcasts. If you want to, any of these radio shows, if you want to hear it again, you just go to our podcast. It is available on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, all the major podcast platforms. You just look for Word on Wealth, and you find it'll say Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus, and you can re-listen to the show, and you can fast forward and hear it again and again and again, and have all that information for you. I do recommend, though, that if you have any questions regarding real estate, you call Ken's team. The number is 619-977-8419. So I'll just put Ken on the spot. If somebody wants to figure out, oh, I just inherited some money, I've got about, $80,000 I think I can scrape together, maybe more. Is there something I can do in San Diego with my $80,000 and get into real estate? And would you be willing to take that call and give them some guidance?
So the answer would be yes and yes.
Okay.
So if you're trying to buy, and I'm assuming you're talking about it from an investor standpoint, meaning that they're not looking to own or occupy.
Anything. Because see, my point is, I know a lot of real estate agents who are very impatient with people. It's like, dude, are you going to buy a house or not? You need more money than that. You know, houses in the median price is $800,000 in San Diego. And if you don't have 20% down, you're not going to get into a rental. But I know I have talked to you before where you said you don't have to buy a median price house in San Diego to make money. And there are other ways to do it. So that's the kind of call that I want our listeners to make to you. It's like, if you're thinking about it, don't think you're going to be priced out of the market immediately just because the median is so high or just because San Diego is going up and all that. It's the time to get into real estate. But talk to Ken first, 619-977-8419.
No, I appreciate that. And if somebody is looking, whatever they're doing, we can always talk. I have a whole, like you said before, I have a whole team of agents. And if sometimes we just talk and we have people set plans for the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe they can't do this minute, but they can set themselves in motion with a plan. So they should understand that it's always going to be possible if they want to set a plan.
Yeah, I love that.
That's
It's so cool. Now you can, just far as like, with your team, and I know we've been talking about the potential rent protections to protect renters and all that, and we like to protect people and take care of them and all that. My thing is, I'm not like a government hater. I am just a government intervention hater, where we try to artificially get people into homes where the end result is probably not going to be what we intended, and then we just make a bigger mess. So that's why that's why we're talking about this kind of stuff. That's why we have Ken on to kind of clarify. There's a lot of alarming statistics and numbers and everything flying around out there. And that's why we have Ken talking. Like the beginning of the show, I always love, you hear things like these numbers come out. It says, okay, the median price in San Diego is $800,000. Okay. The median price is up by 5.3%, but then if you look at Case Shiller, which is a better index, it starts to explain, well, actually, we're not really up. The median is up, but San Diego sales and all. So there's reality. And then there's these alarming statistics. And that's why we have Ken on this show to just provide reality, get a grip on reality. It's like, do we, when the market moves around and, inflation is going up and, bonds are going higher and, and you have the mortgage rates that are now like 6.5. I think a lot of people's reaction to stuff like that, Ken, is that they just say, you know what, I'm just going to curl up in a ball and I'm not going to make any choices because I think someday it's going to be better than it is today. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would say, you know what, I think right now it's half and half. I'll tell you who apparently has finally accepted the 6+% interest rates has been what I consider the basic consumer, that is the buying consumer. The buying consumer right now, I think, has now resigned themselves that their brief, couple of years of crazy free money is gone, and that we are now in a very normal, traditional market, and this market is probably going to remain this way. We're not going to hold our breaths for the interest rates to suddenly drop, where we're just holding our breaths is that the interest rates don't keep going up. But if the interest rates stay in the sixes, we're going to be good. And people are entering, that's where we are hearing all the multiple offers. Mm-hmm. And this is nationally, not just here in San Diego. So people have accepted. The people that haven't accepted yet that this is the case are the people that are sitting in property right now, that they're sitting on the 2% interest rates and the 2.5% and the 3%, and they own houses. And there's a lot of them that own houses, and they really kind of need to sell some of those properties because they're growing, they're whatever, but they don't want to sell their property because they don't want to give up that low rate, and the overall inventory is so short, they're not sure they're going to be able to find it. When these two sides of the game come together and they both accept that 6 to 7% is the normal interest rate, this is the way we're going to transact, this is the way we're going to move on in our life and make money, we're going to go back to a very stabilized, strong market. So we're halfway there. We got another half to go, but it's coming. It's going to happen. It always has. Yes. It's just going to take a little bit of time here. It always will. And if you're somebody that is going to think of real estate in the long term, which is the way you need to, you just hold firm. You stay the course, and it's going to be fine.
No, Ken, I've got a question. Sometimes I hear people that are saying, okay, I'm going to, I need to own a house, and I'm just going to be here for like 2 to 3 years. So I'm going to buy a house. I just need it for 2 to 3 years. And then I'm going to upsize, or I'm just going to sell and I'm planning on moving somewhere else, but I'm just going to be here for 2 to 3 years or 3 to 5. Are there any guidelines or numbers or thoughts that you have on that where, like San Diego, typically you really need to hold on something, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 8 years. Are there numbers like that exist or counsel?
I think I think you can kind of pull numbers however you want to make yourself feel better.
Mhm.
But but the reality is, I think you have to kind of look at what your real life is, meaning that 2 years, if you are thinking you're going to be gone and you have to sell within 1 year, then I think you're rolling the dice too much. If it's 2 years, 2 to 3 years, you can rarely go wrong unless there's going to be some dramatic economic collapse, because in general, we have averaged anywhere from 4 to 7% appreciation in a normalized market. So if you're getting 4 to 7% appreciation in a normalized market over the course of 2 years, you've more than taken care of not only your housing costs, your shelter costs for while you're here. You're going to get the benefit of the tax breaks while you're here. And then you're going to have an appreciation on the property that should well exceed any future cost of sale, and return money that's going to come to you tax-free if it was your principal residence, because you're going to be able to protect it under that federal tax exclusion. So if you're looking at staying here for 3 years or 4 years, then I'm like, just look at the history. We can show you all the numbers. You decide for yourself.
Right.
But I actually just listed a property today. It was I call it a COVID purchase. My client, and there's a lot of these ones. There's a lot of people that across the country, they bought COVID purchases because they could go remote work anywhere they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can do different things. Well, as you can see in the national news media, whatever, corporations are pulling back, people are doing different things. And this particular property was not really being used. And so we're putting it on the market. But here's the deal. I'm putting it on the market for $500,000 more than they bought it for not quite 2 years ago. And I have full expectation that we're going to get it. And so that, had they just come down and rented or gone in hotels, whatever, it'd been fine. But instead, they just parked their money in Coronado for 2 years. And they got to use it on the holidays and everything, and had a wonderful time. And they're going to more likely walk away with anywhere between $400,000 and $450,000 tax-free gain after paying me, which is really a good thing.
That's terrific. So it's so interesting that the housing market is, for so many of us, is kind of just a mystery. Like our personal residence, we buy and sell, and then investment properties, that's just for kind of the other people. The other guy does investment properties. But I think talking about this and showing, like in our everyday conversations, that these things are possible if you get the right expert to help you out, and you do your research and you get curious. And I think sometimes people expect, like, okay, I want to buy a piece of real property and then I want to flip it and make $500,000 in 90 days. Because that's what they see, and they see it on TV and on YouTube. And it's like, oh my gosh, but the reality is, you don't have to be a person that's like professionally flipping and taking all that risk. The reality is, we're in a market that keeps going up. If you look at, the market, it slowed down for a while, it didn't topple, it slowed down. But then if you look at, okay, let's go back 2 years. Oh, it's still up from 2 years ago. It's up from 3 years ago. We had a downtime, but it's still up, and it just constantly goes up. So I like how you're saying that really a lot of this is patience, but I think a lot of it is really curiosity. Get a professional, call Ken, 619-977-8419. Be patient, but get educated. Any last thoughts, Ken?
No, other than it's always a pleasure, and you just speak the truth, young man. You always speak the truth.
Always speaking the truth. That's Ken Pecus, you guys. He's our real estate expert here on the Word on Wealth. We're just so happy to have him here every Wednesday. Hey, Ken, we got to get one of our property manager people on the show with us next week. Maybe that'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be
Okay,
cool.
I'll look into that.
All right, guys. Talk to you tomorrow here on the Word on Wealth. Goodbye.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors. The Word on Wealth.
Thank you, sir.
Is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.